Welcome to Jewel in the Crown 2014. I'm Peter Hodgkin and I'm back. And guess who I'm back with?
Me. Dr. Greg.
Dr. G. How are you, Greg?
I'm good, Peter. And look, it's nice that we're familiar here, just Greg, but it is Dr. Greg, so just remember.
Well, I was just going to start calling you Dr. G.
That'll do.
That's what you do. Yeah. Now, I do understand that you got all your official doctorate came through just before Christmas.
It's official. It is official. I am actually a doctor. So, you know, people might be thinking I'm putting on airs and graces, but it's true.
So being a doctor, is that why you're not coaching anymore? It's a little bit...
it's something like that, you know. Time to take a break. Annalie has some new faces and needs some new faces.
Now you're an ex-Annalie product.
I'm an ex-Annalie product, and there's a whole team of ex-Annalie products. We'll get onto that later on.
So what's the news? What's happening this year, Greg?
Lots of things are happening in Football Brisbane. First off, there's no Diamond and Sapphire this year for women's football. They've been rebanded, rebadged. The biggest news, of course, was that there was meant to be an NPL, a National Premier League for women's football, with the same clubs as in the men's football. If you don't know who those clubs in the Brisbane area were Redlands, Olympic.
You've probably been asleep.
You probably have, but you know, there's people around the world and people who mightn't be familiar with the Brisbane scene, the men's football especially. So Brisbane City, Olympic, Brisbane Strikers, Redlands, Moreton Bay, which was up from the north side, and Western Pride, which was sort of an Ipswich-based new club. So those clubs was meant to host the elite level senior women's football in Brisbane this year. That hasn't got up. Only three clubs managed to field senior teams this year. That was Redlands, Olympic and Western Pride.
Yes. They
have been merged with basically the rest of the Diamond League from last year, I think, with a few new inclusions. Probably don't need to be there. Mitchelton, I don't know how they got in.
Well, that's because they're good.
Okay. And so that's...
UQ as well.
UQ.
So effectively all the teams, or clubs that had teams in Diamond and Sapphire last year became the Brisbane Premier League.
Mm-hmm.
And then with the failure of the NPL to get up, those clubs that you mentioned joined up, and now we have a 14-team South East Queensland Premier League.
14-team South East Queensland Premier League. So that's the top league. Underneath that, we have a Brisbane Premier League, which is now a 10-team comp. It was scheduled for 12. 2 teams have pulled out of that. And then we go Div 1 to Div 5.
So if you're trying to make it into really simple terms, like the Diamond League sort of expanded and became the South East Queensland Premier League, and the Sapphire League effectively got rebadged as the Brisbane Women's Premier League.
That's right.
All right, so that's where we are. So 14 teams. We've got the first round, the first 13 games. We don't know what's happening after that.
Okay.
But at least it's a start. The good thing about it is that all the top players in Brisbane, and there's a lot of really good players in Brisbane, are going to get to compete against each other.
They really will be. You can't say that there'll be any player not in the top league unless they don't want to be. There might be a couple.
Some people move on. They work, study, commitments.
Right.
You can't do it.
But definitely, except perhaps at East, where they've always got. I think at East they prefer that second division team. That they want that second team to do a bit better, and it's a very strong team.
Well, they're going for, I guess, 5 years in a row if you count back and count the Sapphire teams and then the Premier Reserves from before that.
Yeah.
That same group, I guess, is going for 5 in a row.
Yeah.
Jeff, it ain't going to happen.
We'll get onto that in a bit. The other thing is the NPL was supposed to also field under 17-year-old girls, I guess, and that didn't get up. So some of those players will probably be either in the South East Queensland Premier League or in the Brisbane Premier League.
Or in Division 1.
Or in Division 1. So there's a lot of movement in players and a lot of movement in coaches and clubs, and we'll certainly get on to talking all about that
very soon. But in the meantime, there are another, like you say, Division 1 through Division 5.
And, I'm always a big fan of these lower divisions.
Being a Division 3 coach.
Oh, well, a previous
Division 3
coach. And I
took the Mitchie Division 3 team on the weekend because their coach was, as I said to the girls, lazing around in Byron.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, good for some. It was hot out there, Lorena, so just bear that in mind next time.
Yeah, so hopefully the numbers are expanding in the lower divisions, and hopefully the quality is evening up. But it's still very early days.
It's tough with the city leagues.
It is.
It takes a few weeks to sort them out. There's some strange scores come through initially.
Yeah,
but there's also some good players in there.
And
I know that from a Mitchie point of view, we've got players that were playing Sapphire last year have dropped down to Division 2.
Mm-hmm.
At that stage of their careers where they want a bit more social, one night a week, have a kick around with their friends on the weekend, but still want to play fairly competitive. Yeah. So you've got players that are just out of the top leagues playing in there with perhaps players that are have come up from Division 3.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a challenge.
Been a couple of jumps. I've seen players from Div 5 move all the way up to Brisbane Premier League. Looking at the player sheets, which are coming in sporadically. If you're out there in Clubland, get your team sheets up, guys. We can't talk about your team if you don't put them up.
You talk about anyone in particular, or just Redlands?
Well, there's Redlands. Annalee's a bit slack these days. Now I'm not there cracking the whip.
Yep.
There's teams out there,
and it's not hard to get them in. It's just a matter of doing it and
gives us more to talk about.
Oh, well, everyone likes to know who's played and who's scored.
And who's scored, exactly. Yeah. So
but like we said, there are other 5 divisions. So
let's go through
just really quickly run through. Division 5 Silver. It's got Jimboomba, Mount Gravatt, Redlands, Slacks Creek, Centenary Stormers, Logan Lightning, Holland Park, Bethania Rams, Logan City Kings, Tevo Downs, I hope that's how you say it.
Tevo, I think.
And
I don't know, actually.
Logan Village and Wolves FC. So quite a... Well, it's all Southside effectively, but that's looks like it'll be a really interesting 12-team comp.
I think the new team there is probably Mount Gravatt. I think that's probably a new team there. And I also think Wolves, they sort of seem to have a team every second year in that sort of division.
It might be girls coming out of juniors
or something like that. So early days yet, good competition.
Jimboomba's off to a bit of a flyer to start with. So
yeah, they always have a couple of good quality players, and they might necessarily have enough for a good team. So.
And if you live in Logan, you probably don't have too far to travel to away games.
That's good.
Division 5 Blue is also a 12-team comp. So it's got Moggle, The Gap, Mitchie, North Pine, Annalee. There's one from your club.
Yep.
Virginia United, Grange, Westside, which is good to see Westside back in the comp. Taringa Rovers, Toowong, Brighton and Peninsula Power.
It's good to see that these lower divisions have got 12 now. I mean, last year I think one of them had 8-team competitions or 10.
Yeah, well, just wait till we get up a bit higher.
We'll get, but at least they've started at 12 this year. So, and if you're new to the game and you're playing at those levels, enjoy it. It's fun. I mean, that's why we play.
And like I said, and Westside's obviously the standout from there because I coached there for quite a while, and they haven't had a women's program running. They've tried a couple of times to get teams in, and they've had some juniors coming through. But it's nice. Good on you, Shane, for getting the girls out in the park this year.
Well done.
Division 4 Silver, which is a 9-team comp.
Oh, unlucky.
So someone's pulled out of there. I'm not quite sure who. Ipswich City, Holland Park, Capalaba, Logan Village. So that's the second Logan Village team.
They usually have 2 in the lower division.
Oxley, South United, Clairvaux, Park Ridge and Western Spirit.
Okay, yeah.
So, again, good competition for those schools.
Yeah, I hope so.
Division 4 Blue, now we're down to 8 teams.
Oh, dear. I think this is a geography
This
issue.
Redcliffe, UQ, Pine Hills, Power, North Star, Pine Rivers, Mitchie and Eastern Suburbs.
So that's the first East teams only down in Div 4. Okay. Okay. Interesting.
Now, your old division, so you're going to get a shock from this because this year, well, it's Division 3 Silver.
Yes, they've got silver and blue.
Silver and blue. So Silver's down to 8 teams, but we've gone from 1 division of Div 3 to 2 splits. So we've sort of got an increase in Division 3 teams.
Yeah.
Though it doesn't seem like it.
No.
Clairvaux, Springfield United. My tip to be one of the biggest clubs in Brisbane in the next 10 to 15 years.
You say that. I'll disagree with that later.
Yeah, I just think they will. Slacks Creek, Tarragindi Tigers, Redlands United, Logan Lightning, Bethania Rams and Capalaba.
Okay, so Bethania's got 2. That's good to see. And Capalaba, that's 3 for Capalaba. I think they'll have one up higher too. So Capalaba's expanding. A lot of teams are expanding, I think. A lot of clubs are expanding their women's football. That's good.
It's good. Division 3 Blue is actually 12-team comp.
Yes.
So we've, I guess, picked up 8 teams in Division 3.
Somewhere,
which is good. Kangaroo Point Rovers, Virginia United, The Gap, Peninsula Power, Moggle, Annalee, Narangba United, UQ, Newmarket, Mitchelton, North Star and Toowong.
A lot of those teams have come up from lower divisions. So the Newmarket team was in Div 4 last year. Peninsula Power, I think, was in Div 4 as well. So, yeah, a lot of those teams have been promoted into Div 3. And a lot of the teams that were in Div 3 last year, and I think the top 4 teams, I think all the top 4 teams have gone up either to Div 1 or Div 2. Annalee is the highest ranked.
So 12-team comp for the girls. That's going to make it interesting over the year. Good. And it gives teams time to recover if they don't get off too well.
Yeah.
They can pick it up later in the season.
Yeah.
And they can run down the leaders like they did last year.
Yeah, it was close in Div 3. I loved it.
Now we're getting up into the higher leagues. Division 2, also a 12-team comp. UQ, Mitchelton, Eastern Suburbs, Holland Park, Pine Hills, Samford, Brighton Bulldogs, North Pine, Park Ridge, Taringa Rovers, Western Spirit and Mount Cravat.
So Western Spirit, I don't know if they're usually up in that level. I'm not sure.
They were Division 3, 3 or 4.
I don't think they were 3 last year.
They've come up, I think. I'm 100%
Holland Park have gone up. I
apologise if we got that wrong.
Right. Holland Park have gone up there from Div 3. And there was Div 2 was 8-team comp last year, so this is...
So we're getting some solid teams in the higher leagues now.
Yeah, I think so.
Which is good. Division 1, now it's getting a bit competitive.
Yeah, a little bit.
Super competitive.
Super competitive.
Well, everyone likes this Div 1 comp,
okay.
apparently. Toowong, I don't know why they're still in Div 1. Toowong should be in the next league up. I mean, they finished second last year in Division 1. I don't quite understand why they're still in Division 1.
Is there a team? There's no team above them? No.
That's our highest team. So I'm a little bit perplexed as to why they're still in Division 1. But there may be a perfectly good reason for that. Logan Lightning, so that's a new venture for Logan to be up into
Div 1. They were in Div 2 last year, and they seem to have improved, actually, just going on their results so far.
Oxley.
Div 1 last year.
Yeah, and so they've held their spot up there. UQFC. UQ tend to have teams in those top few divisions. Yeah. Eastern Suburbs. So they've always got a team around that Div 1 mark.
So they've got 4 straight. They've got the top 4 divisions.
Yeah, they concentrate on getting those players in there, eh?
Yeah, they do.
South United.
Yep.
Bayside, who were there last year, I think.
They were in Div 3 last year, so they've gone up 2 spots.
Mitchelton, Virginia, Redlands, Capalaba, who've come up, I believe.
From Div 3.
2?
No, Div 3 from Capalaba.
You've got a better memory than me.
Capalaba were premiers, but they lost in the grand final. Well, they lost in the semi-final, I think, to Easts, who lost to Holland Park, I think. Something like that. So Fourth won the grand final in 3.
Holland Park's not in it. Anyway.
Holland Park were in Div 2.
And did I say Western Spirit's the 12th team?
Okay.
So...
there we go. That's exciting.
That is. And then, of course, we get into the new Women's Premier League.
Well, before we get to that, let's go just a quick summary of the W League before we go to a break, a couple of minutes back. So Brisbane Roar grand finalists this year did well.
Well, I think they're a bit lucky to get there to the grand final, to be honest.
Yeah.
They made the top 4. You can't really ask for much more than making the top 4, and they won their semi. They got to the final. Yeah. Melbourne just too good. Too good
on the day, yeah. And lots of players from last year's Diamond League, playing in the W League. I saw a few at Perth. There was, not at Perth, but playing for Perth is Rosie Sutton and
Jess
Dillon, both at Easts.
Well,
from East.
From East, and Jess is back at East. I couldn't quite get it to Mitchie. I was trying for the trifecta because her mum plays at Mitchie.
Yep.
And her sister Jamie's now in our development squad. And I thought, well, I'm going to get all 3 of them there, right? And then Matt and I can stand on the balcony and watch them play. But I think Jess has gone back to East, I believe. And Rosie's out injured for a while.
Okay.
So
Brittany Whitfield, was at Sydney and playing for Peninsula
Power. Yeah, she skinned our fullback a few times on Saturday night.
Oh, good on her. In Canberra, there was Holly Houston from Redlands.
Yes, she was down there. There were a few other girls around as well.
Tegan Riding from Redlands
was playing
Adelaide.
Adelaide. She did well down there as well. She's back at Redlands this year, I believe, as well.
Yeah.
And I think there's another couple, but we just got to chase the names off the top of my head. But
the other big news from the W League is Ray Dale was assistant coach for Canberra, or assisting in some capacity, and she's been offered a gig in Canberra this year for the ACT Academy of Sport.
Yes, so she'll be not coming back to her old job.
No, so I think that's a great move for Ray. That's a real step up to get to an academy position in Canberra. I mean, you're close to the AIS there, Ray, so congratulations, well done.
And she will have a pretty good idea of the talent floating around Brisbane.
Yes, she will.
So there's probably going to be a few words down there to say keep an eye on some of these kids up here.
That's right. She can always point to the wonderful products on the FB media to hand around to the coaches in Canberra, It'll be
I hope
great.
You're listening, Ray. I really do. We're pumping you up, mate.
Yeah, we're doing good. And so that was a great effort, I think, from Brisbane to get all these players and coaches into the W League. And, congratulations to all of them, even if you necessarily didn't play a game.
We did miss out Hannah Beard.
Who
was playing for the Gap last year and might be playing somewhere else this year, but she was down at Newcastle.
Oh, good. She was quality. I like watching Hannah play.
I talking to her the other day, and she said Newcastle had a tough year in the W League, but she had a couple of 15-year-olds starting. and she's really keen to be back there next year to help these kids develop. So good on her. She's a nice girl as well.
Okay. Well, congratulations to all the players who played at the W League. We're going to go to a break. We're going to come back and talk about the Brisbane Premier League and then the South East Queensland Premier League. Welcome back to Jewel in the Crown, the world's best and longest running. This is our third year of Jewel in the Crown. Been doing this job for 3 years now.
Top of the ratings?
Top of the ratings, yeah, we have. The offers for bigger and better things are coming thick and fast. It's only a labour of love.
It is. We could change that if we got a really good sponsor.
We could. So if you do want to sponsor, please get in touch with FB Media Team. I believe Ian Judd's the man you need to talk to. Talk to him. Sponsor this show. Sponsor any show.
Yeah, I mean, we're ready. We're sitting here waiting.
We are.
Do you want to talk about the Premier League?
We
can just say the Premier League and we can talk about either the Women's Premier League, the Men's Premier League, the South East Queensland Premier League, the National Premier League.
We could. There's a few Premier Leagues around. Let's start with the Brisbane Premier League, the women's one, because we're the women's football.
How about we tell you who's in the Women's Premier League?
Let's do that.
Okay, so at the moment, they've played a couple of games. Well, some teams have played 2 and some teams have played 1. So they've actually already started. Okay, so we've got Eastern Suburbs, who were, as we alluded to before, last year's winners.
Yep.
Okay, and hoping to do a game, but I don't think they will.
Okay.
Redlands. Ipswich.
Knights.
Mitchelton. The Gap. Annerley. Pine Hills. UQFC. Peninsula Power and South United.
So there's 10 teams. There were 12 teams. Palm Beach and Brisbane City pulled out.
Yeah. So it is what it is now.
It is what it is.
It's a 10-team comp.
And unfortunately, a bit like last year's Sapphire team, there's lots of buys. There's 2 buys every week.
Well, because of the late withdrawals, and they didn't redraw it completely, they just left the buys in. So
yes,
we know because we had one of them last weekend.
Yeah. Well,
so we played a game, have a week off.
Yes. Yeah, and it'll be a bit interesting for these teams, yeah.
And it's a little bit unfortunate the way the draw worked for us because we played Peninsula Power in the first round and then we both had a bye last weekend. So if it had been somebody else, we could have almost had a friendly.
Yeah.
But you don't really want to play the same team 2 weeks in a row. It's just not, you just don't feel like it. So
no. Well, I mean, eventually this is what happens. No one feels like playing a friendly because everyone can find something else to do, Oh, I've got a bit of a niggle, I don't want to play a friendly. Oh, I can do that extra shift at work or I can go to that party, So, unfortunately...
You go to parties. I never get invited to parties.
These players I hear, that's all they talk about.
Well, and it's that sort of... It's that music season, isn't it? All these festivals are happening and players are going and... It's only one festival, but...
I'll tell you, a few years back, everyone was going overseas. I had a team of about 16, 17 players, and every one of them had gone overseas during the season.
Well, you must pay them too much.
Well, So those are your teams in the Brisbane Premier League.
And round 3 is this weekend.
So
the matches this weekend start on Friday night, 8:30 down at Heath Park, home of East, and East are at home to Peninsula Power.
Should be a bit of a cracking game.
It will be tight, I believe. Like I say, we've played Peninsula Power and we saw a fair bit of the East in the Taringa Cup, the WPL players. I believe this is going to be a close game. I wouldn't be surprised with this draw. I'm going to go draw 1-1.
Look, it's so hard to gauge the teams for this competition because of all the buys, because of the fact that the competition above, the South East Queensland Premier League hasn't started, players are playing everywhere, So it's really hard to gauge who's actually in any team. And I mean, it's not just the serial offenders that we always accuse, like Mitchie, of playing players down.
That's right.
Never
without substance.
That's right.
Never without substance.
These things happen. There might be great reasons. A player might be in the South East Queensland League and only be a bench player there and say, basically, we're not needed you this week, go play. So it's hard to tell who's in what team. But I still think Easts in this division are solid. They've always had, and 4 divisions. They've got 4 divisions of players to choose from. They're going to choose the right players for this division, and they know what to do.
Interestingly enough, Power beat East in the Taringa Cup. These 2 sides playing. Right. So, and Power have got a much different team to what was there last year playing in Sapphire. And I'm sorry I don't know the coach's name, but he's drilling them, on patterns and he's getting them to play some good football. That's why I think Power are going to surprise some people in the WPL.
Okay, well, they would certainly surprise East at home if they got up. I think that would actually make the crowd silent, which is always funny at East.
Well, it's good, isn't it?
Yeah. It is good.
So, I went to the season launch.
Yeah, I did.
And it was good, and they interviewed the coaches, all except Redlands.
And why is that?
Well, the Redlands weren't there.
Oh, Redlands weren't there?
No.
Oh.
And
they are still playing in the top division, aren't they?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
And Phil was doing the MC and hosting and said hello to me and asked me what our goal was this year. And I said, there's only one goal ever. It's to beat East. So we had some fun.
Fair enough. So that's your first game. If you've got nothing on for Friday night, get down to Heath Park.
Yeah, second game, Saturday, 8th of March at Terrelba Park, 4 o'clock, is Mitchelton
taking on
Annerley.
This will be an interesting game. Most of that Annerley side is from Olympic Division 1 last year. They've picked up a few of our Div 3 players from last year. The goalkeeper, Tammy Weckett, she's a class act. She's a quality goalkeeper. I'd rate her as one of the best in Brisbane, personally. And they'll take a few weeks to gel, I think, a few more weeks, because they've been playing some of these Southeast Queensland players down, and who knows.
So who's coaching the WPL team?
It's Anthony, I think, Anthony Costa.
Yep.
Sorry, I've forgotten his name. From the Olympic team. So they're basically the Olympic Div 1 team has basically migrated, and picked up a few players around the place. So they'll be competitive, but I think they'll take time to get there.
Yep, I'm happy to pick Mitchie.
Oh yeah, well I think I'll go with Annerley. I think they know what to do, and on their day they'll do it really well.
And moving on. Also on Saturday at the Gap,
Walton Bridge,
hosting UQFC.
Traditionally a big game in the second division.
I don't know what time it is. I'm rusty. I forgot to write it down.
14. I've got 4 o'clock here.
Is it? It's 4 o'clock.
Same time.
Probably
4 o'clock.
Right, yeah.
So this is, the Gap strong in that second team, but I've heard this is more of a younger development sort of squad from the Gap, and not necessarily their Sapphire team from last year.
No, I think that's right. There's the girls that were playing in the pre-season. The Gap team seemed to change a lot week to week as players were rotated through, I guess. Trying them out, but there is a lot of the NPL juniors from last year, and the Gap also had an under-18 team in the Brisbane comp, so imagine maybe a couple of those girls have snuck in there as well.
Well, I did see some, I think it was Bethany Ashton played for them last weekend, and I'm pretty sure she'd be a Diamond player, a Southeast Queensland, not Diamond League, whatever it's called.
Topside player.
The topside player. It's got to be hard, as we say, for the first few weeks to find out who's playing where and what thing. And same with UQ. UQ have done some big signings. Picked up Georgia Chapman from...
Right from under my nose, I might add.
Well, good. I'm glad you didn't get it then. So, they've been... We heard last year that they were going to open the war chest.
They did. They have. That's a big war chest they've got. I'm sure it is.
Yeah, I'm sure it is. And so they went out and got players to win this league and the next one. So it's going to be a good close game and a good gauge for how both teams are.
Yeah, with the fact that the Gap play East after this game in Southeast Queensland, so the top sides play, the Gap will effectively be maxed out for the two teams. So they might have some of their bench players playing warm-up game.
Yep.
So that it won't be like they've got free players to put down there and give them a run.
No.
So it'll be a good test for the Gap WPL side.
Yes, it will. I'm tipping a draw, I think.
I think the Gap by 1.
Gap by 1, okay. The next game, Saturday 6 p.m, Eric Evans Oval, Ipswich Knights take on...
Redlands.
Now, most of this Ipswich Knights team, about half of them played in the Diamond League last year. They lost a lot of players to Western Pride and around the place, so other clubs in the top division. Yep. So they've done the wise move and said, look, we'll come back. If we do well in this, great, but when, the pressure's off for our players, and I think that's a wiser move, definitely, for the club.
Yeah. So Ipswich going to be a fairly strong side in WPL, I think.
Yes, they will be.
Redlands is a very new side in the sense that there's got a lot of the girls that came out of NPL as well.
Okay.
And I was chatting to Jess Anderson, the keeper, who played for Mitch a couple of years ago and was playing NPL last year. And I asked her which team, what was the story with the team. And that's what effectively she said. It was pretty much the new team. It was a lot of the kids out of there. There's some familiar faces out there because we played them in the Taringa Cup.
Mm-hmm.
But they'll be solid. They'll be good. I don't know that they'll be as good necessarily as last year.
Yeah.
But I think they'll give Ipswich a good run.
Yeah, I think Ipswich are probably going to be the most cohesive team in this division for a while. Those other big clubs, the Gap, Redlands, UQ, they have to manage the top team above them, whereas this is Ipswich top team. They know the players they're going to have. They've had them for weeks. They're just going to be that bit more coordinated, a bit more organised than other teams. And I think that'll carry them for quite a few weeks, especially with all these buys and stuff.
So you're tipping Ipswich?
Yeah, I'm tipping Ipswich on this one.
Yeah, I agree with you, surprisingly.
Oh,
Happens occasionally.
It does. You should agree with doctors. They're important people.
Oh, I work at a hospital.
Well, you don't agree with those doctors. They're not doctors. They're physicians.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, very different.
Yes, they are.
So that's
the last
Saturday.
game.
Last game is at James Drysdale Reserve.
Pine Hills hosting South.
When's that game? Sorry, I don't...
Good question. I told you I was rushed. I've got the right time down.
We'll get back.
But it's also on Saturday.
It is. It must be at 6 p.m. then.
6 p.m. Something like that.
So, James, Pine Hills take on South. Now, this is basically Pine Hills from Div 1 last year.
Or with a lot of the Div 1 girls that were at Samford
that's
Albany
right.
Creek.
Yes.
So they've pulled in some players.
Mm-hmm.
They do have one ex-Annerley product there that I know of.
Yes.
Sarah Nisbet's there.
Oh, yeah. We've got them everywhere.
They've signed her from UQ.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's a step up, effectively, for Pine Hills.
Yeah.
The South girls were probably, a lot of them I imagine, have been there before.
Yeah.
So they'll have that little bit of experience. Now, South didn't do cracking well last year, but
they
were solid.
Solid and improved. I don't think they would have been, I would have to ask them personally, but I think they wouldn't have been unhappy with the performance.
So all of a sudden you've got a new team in with some talent. I'm going to go Pine Hills.
I go Pine Hills too.
Just quickly, Greg, top four.
For this division, East, UQ, Ipswich Knights, and then I reckon Annerley. But I'm not sure about the order. I think East will win it.
I'm going to go East, Redlands, Mitchelton and Pine Hills.
Okay.
Just to stir it up.
Fair enough. Well, we've got to get a roll on. We've talked too much about it. The second division. Top division. 14 teams.
14 teams.
Maybe we should go to a break now and come back and give it the time it deserves.
That's a good plan.
We'll go to a break now.
Welcome back to Jewel and the Crown. I'm Pete and I'm here with Dr. G.
G'day.
And we're going to talk about the South East Queensland Premier League round one. As a mouthful. Diamond was easy.
It was. We're going to have to come up with something, I think.
The SEQPL.
The SEQPL. Yeah. Then you might as well just call it the Alphabet League.
No, let's just call it the Premier. Let's just call it the
top.
The top league, the Premier League.
Yep.
And call the other one the not so top Premier League.
That's right.
First game. Let's just get into the games.
Let's get into the games.
First game, Saturday the 8th of March, 3 p.m. The honour of kicking off the first game in the South East Queensland Premier League falls to Palm Beach, who host Annerley.
Malawa Sporting Ground. Palm Beach take on Annerley. And Palm Beach got third last year in the Diamond League.
They did. They were my little second team.
Yeah. I think they've done well. I think they'll have improved.
And you know that Frenchie noticed that. Their coach, we played them in a pre-season game early or late January, and I actually got to go to Palm Beach. First time ever.
Oh.
And he did say that, you were nice to me, that other bloke. Always ran us down, he said.
Oh, well, this is what happens, You got lucky.
Yeah.
But I think they definitely will improve this year. They've had an NPL, JPL, whatever it is, for a few years. So some of that's coming through.
Those Palm Beach girls have been together quite a while through juniors. So they've got a good, solid team.
Well, they've got the experience now. They've got the depth. They've got the youth coming through. Their setup is looking good to go. They're one of my tips, I think, for the top four this year. We'll get to that in a bit.
But I think you're right. I think Palm Beach by a couple.
I think Annerley have got the backbone of a good defensive unit. I don't think they're going to score many goals. They have a great striker, but I just don't think they're up to the speed.
The striker?
Rebecca Sweeney for Annerley was, I think, the equal top goal scorer for Div 1. But it is a step up. This is the Div 1 team mostly, with a couple of junior NPL players who hadn't been in the system for a while.
And Palm Beach are quick.
Oh, yeah.
And their centre too at the back are very good players.
Yeah, and I think Annerley will be competitive, but if it's an early goal against them, I think it could
struggle to get it back.
Yeah, well, I don't think they're going to get it back, but it could just say, oh, well, we're not going to. They might throw their hands up. Because, new to a division, they're going to take 6 months to just get used to the speed of the division, which is a big step up.
It does take a while, yeah.
So hopefully they'll do well and, get up there. But I think Palm Beach for this one.
Yep. So, and Gary's been overseas, so I'm not sure if he's back. Hopefully he's back for the first game. So he'll be keen to get
Well,
the girls.
they'll be used to the system.
Yeah,
Any coach should be able to step in with the curriculum at Palm
and
Beach
they had kids coming out of their 17s into that side, and they just
That's
filled the
right.
gaps and
That's
knew
it.
exactly what to do. So it's good on them.
I think they'll be good.
The second game, also on Saturday at 3 p.m, Western Pride, so one of the new clubs
NPL
in there,
clubs.
are hosting another new NPL club in Olympic FC.
That's right.
At To Be Advised Sports Reserve.
I thought it was To Be Advised Oval.
I'm not sure. It's To Be Advised
Okay.
Park.
We're not sure where that is.
Yeah, so sorry, not Annalee. Well, they are Annalee, really, Olympic.
Basically.
Girls, we don't know where you're playing. It's just on Saturday.
It's on Saturday at 3 p.m. I had the fortune of refereeing a friendly game between Annalee and Olympic last weekend, and Olympic are looking particularly sharp this year. They've had those few. Phil has had the few years with the team in the W.
So Olympics effectively the Annalee girls from last year.
It really is. I think the whole team I think went to Olympic in anticipation of the NPL getting up and being in the top division, and that hasn't happened. So they're now playing
in the top division.
In the top division against other teams.
But they're just wearing red and white stripes instead of blue.
I'm not sure what their shirt
Olympics
is.
red and white.
Yeah, the Olympic are red and white. At this
So
friendly, they were wearing an Annalee away strip. So I'm a bit confused. But basically that Annalee, and Phil's also picked up a couple of the Olympic Central Brisbane NPL younger players coming through.
But no one from any of the other clubs? Like
Not
in their
that I know
catchment
of.
from the NPL?
No. I'd have to check with Phil. And I think they're looking sharp. They've had the few years' experience. The system's been drilled into them. The new players coming through are drilled into, and they're, obviously if the whole team's willing to follow a coach, or if a coach is willing to move in some combination, there's a lot of respect and trust between both parties, and they're going to do well. I think what they lack is just a striker, a real finisher of goals.
Yep.
If they had someone who could bang in even 15 a season, I think they'd really push for a top 2 spot, I would guess. But defensively great. Their captain Alicia Clayton has gotten better. I really think she's tough as guts and quite crafty at the back. So she's a good player.
So Olympic over Western Pride.
Yeah,
I
Western
agree
Pride.
with you. I haven't seen Western Pride at all.
Well, Western Pride have picked up a few Ipswich Knights players and a couple of players from the Church League. I've heard a few things that might have been struggling for a bit of numbers at times, which is not a good thing.
No, not a good look when you're starting the season.
Not a good look in the start of the season. Also, they're the only team in the club. I mean, they can't pull
of
their BPLs. They can, of course, as far as I know, I'm not sure, we haven't checked the rules, go to their catchment clubs for players. But
that might be a bit tough.
It might be a bit tough, particularly if they're not doing particularly well, or if they're just short players.
Are any of the other clubs in there?
Well, there's Ipswich Knights in the second division, the BPL, who have players of the standard you'd think that would be willing to go up.
Is UQ in the Pride catchment?
I wouldn't know.
I don't know. I can't remember.
And I don't even know if they're allowed to do this.
Yeah.
This is the thing. This competition was made up
sort of in a
month ago.
Last minute,
yeah. So
who knows? Anyway,
who knows? Yeah. So Western Pride take on Olympic. I'm tipping Olympic there.
I'm with you, Greg. I think Olympic would be too good for Western Pride.
6 p.m. Saturday.
Terrell Park, Mitchelton hosting Southwest Queensland Thunder. Now, it's the Southwest Queensland Thunder, not the Toowoomba Raiders. All right, Toowoomba Raiders are no more in this competition. So
they're no more in any football Brisbane competitions, as far as I know.
So Southwest Queensland Thunder are from Toowoomba, but it's effectively that region's or zone's NPL team. And talking to Philip, their assistant coach, in January, said they were a young side, pretty much out of the NPL juniors up there. So, and I'm sure there are probably a couple of good players from the Raiders around the place that have perhaps they've recruited. So I think they'll be solid.
I don't know if
it's hard to say.
It is.
No one's seen them yet. Mitchie, obviously, that's mine.
And you're still coaching that team?
Yeah, I'm still coaching that team.
Okay.
Zoe's the assistant now, so I'm wearing the bulletproof vest on the back.
Fair enough.
Right, not the front. Yeah. So that's all right, Zoe. You can take training tomorrow for about 10 minutes. All right. Now, over the course of a few weeks, we'll try and bring you the player movements, who's in and who's out. But because it's Mitchie, it's easy for me to tell you who's in at Mitchie this year.
Tell.
So I will tell you some of the names that have signed for Mitchie. Obviously, Emma Pittman from the Gap and Georgie Bridges from the Gap. They're both playing at Mitchie this year. Danny Graham came over from Taringa.
Right.
So she's a good player. Emma Taylor from Eastern Suburbs in New Zealand.
And New Zealand. In New Zealand.
Yeah,
okay,
there's an Eastern Suburbs in Auckland, Jeff.
Right.
All right.
Okay.
So I've got an East player. Tina Shin came from Barden.
Right.
She played at Mitchie a few years ago before moved to
so they
Barden.
would have Barden Div 1 last year.
Yep.
That
so
team, Barden didn't have a team this year.
No, they don't.
Okay.
No. And probably the other one is Jack Wall, who was playing at Pine Hills last year. So there's a couple of girls stepped up.
Okay.
From that, and of course you did mention we did pick up a player from North Stars Div 5.
Yeah, that's a big two sisters, the Agnestellis. Is that correct?
They're playing in the squad.
Yeah,
but Tamale Gilmot is actually forced away into the top side.
Oh right.
And she was playing Div 5 last year.
Yeah, well that's amazing.
So it's a big effort from her.
Yeah.
So they're the ins for Mitchelton effectively, and I did mention before some of the players from last year's Sapphire have stepped out of the top levels and have gone down to play a little bit more social. People like Captain Duff.
Okay.
But that's good for them. They keep playing. They're encouraging young girls to play. And
well, as long as those bottom divisions don't suffer, the other teams don't suffer. That's my theory.
Yeah. Well, have you ever run into the Angry German? You've met the Angry German. She's in there as well.
Oh, really?
So anyway, I'm tipping Mitchelton.
I think Mitchelton will be here. I hope Toowoomba, southwest.
When you say Toowoomba, it's just
the Thunder. Just the Thunder managed to finish the year with the team, which they didn't quite do for the last couple of years now. So,
I think that they'll be good. I don't know that they'll be that super strong, but I think they'll be solid and they'll have good numbers.
Okay, well that's
and the reason I say that is because they're the zone team, so they'll be able to pull from the zone. So.
Good. Next game,
Saturday,
big game.
Saturday match of the round. Saturday, 8th of March, 6 p.m, Walton Bridge Reserve. The Gap, last year's grand final winners, not premiers.
No, still undefeated.
Hosting Eastern Suburbs. So East have drawn the tough one first up.
They have.
Might as well get out of the road, Jeff.
Well, yeah.
Now, I did have... Jeff was very kind and gave me some of the ins and outs from East, so we can start off with him. So Innie's picked up Laura Askin from the Gap. Laura didn't play last year, I believe. So he lost Susie McKean. He wasn't too forthcoming on other outs, but I'm not sure. Neither of us actually know where Susie's playing. So,
could be
Taringa, if you're still looking for players, give Susie a ring. Jeff did say he's got quite a number of players out with injuries. So Annika Coyne's out. She's still 4 weeks away. Nat Mueller's out. She did a shoulder in the preseason game, broke collarbone, I think. So she's out for 8 weeks.
Ouch.
Beck Marin's still out. She's got an ankle injury. He's had a tough run pre-season.
Yeah.
Chantal McGurry, he lost for the season.
Yeah, ACL, I think.
Chantal Ryder's still 2 weeks away from coming back. And Mel Panetta's still a week away. So he's going to have a tough job at the Gap.
Yeah, he will. But, as you say, get it out of the way first. It's a good way to start your season if you put in a good performance.
As a coach, Greg, that's not a good way to start the season.
Well, it could be worse.
It could be worse.
I don't know. I don't know what could be worse. But anyway,
Redlands?
I think we'll get on to Redlands in a bit.
I think it's a tough. Whoever got the Gap in the first round was always going to be hard.
Always going to be tough.
So
I think the Gap will win. It'll be interesting to see how long that unbeaten streak goes for.
I actually think they're going to remain undefeated all year, play 3 draws, and finish second again.
Really?
Yeah, well, that's my tip.
To Mitchie, huh?
Well, they might draw to Mitchie in one of the games, but I think that's my tip.
Okay.
I'd like to see that.
That's
I'm sorry, Rob, but
big tip.
I'd just like to see that happen again.
Okay.
Just for the fact that it happens again.
Yeah.
But I'm pretty sure the Gap girls won't want that to happen.
No. Sunday, 10 a.m. in the morning. Nice and early at Stockland Park.
Is the sun up at 10 a.m. on Sunday?
Yeah, it is. At the Sunshine Coast Fire take on Taringa. Now, Sunshine Coast Fire are basically the NPL side from the Sunshine Coast region. I only heard a few things from their team. They have some very young players. Some of their under-17 team, there's no under-17 NPL, have gone up, and some of them were not, 15 or 14, so they could be some
Well, you can be 15 and play in the seniors, so they're obviously eligible to play, but I did hear that as well, that they've got young players coming through, so they're building that from an NPL perspective from last year. But I'm not sure what these clubs are going to do next year because there's no under NPL this year. In under 17, so it's going to be tough.
We'll talk about next year.
Taringa Rovers, now Kelvin Wheeler's coaching Taringa Rovers again, and Tash played in the Raw. We had a chat to her before she Gone on plane to go and play for the Young Matildas, I think, last year. Taringa have lost quite a number of diamond players. 9, I think, from last year's 10. So they've been devastated by...
everything.
All sorts of things. Yeah, 2 or 3 to this, 2 or 3 to that. So they're really going to struggle, I think.
Yeah.
They did pick up, though, Danny Harbo from East. So they've got a good keeper.
Oh, yeah.
But I think she's going to get a lot of work.
She will be.
They did pick up a few players from UQ, Georgia Applehoff, Olivia Tannock, and Daisy Welsh.
Yep.
So
Daisy played at Annerley 3 years ago.
There you go. I knew there'd be one. I knew there'd be... I vet my players to make sure they're not Annerley players before I sign them.
Fair enough.
But I think even though Sunshine Coast Fire is a young side, I think they're going to get over it.
Yeah.
I think there'll be 2.
This is the game you don't want first. Playing the gap's hard, but getting up at 10 a.m. to play Sunny Coast.
We'll get up you've got to be up there at 9.
Get up at 7. So yeah. It'll be exciting.
It'll be fun. It's not so bad for Mitchie. We live on, predominantly on the north side, so we're already halfway to the freeway. If you live at Western Pride, it's a long trip to Sunny Coast. If you live at Palm Beach, it's a 2-hour drive, isn't it?
Easy.
Yeah.
And traffic. Yeah. So I'm tipping Sunny Coast Fire on that one. Yep. And on Sunday at 5,
5 p.m. at Uni.
UQ versus Power.
Yeah, now, obviously, you mentioned before the UQ have picked up Georgia Chapman.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure who else they've got. We'll find out
on the weekend.
And we've played Power. Haven't seen much of UQ. Power are looking quite sharp. With Britt playing up front, they're looking really sharp in attack.
Yeah, well, they always are. They're good very good in attack. Just missed out on the finals last year, Power. I think they'll win this one, but I think UQ will improve throughout the year.
Oh, I think everyone will improve as well. Yeah. I think Power, they've just got some new blood in there, some younger girls coming through, and that Scotsman's got them running.
Good.
They're playing really well.
Okay.
So I'm going to go for Power as well.
Yeah. Okay, and the last game, because there's 7 games, 14-team competition, on Sunday at Wakeley Park, South United take on Redlands. Now, Redlands, Ray's gone, new coach come in, and a lot of those players were there because of Ray. So it'll be interesting to see, how that goes at Redlands.
So my phone just keeps going with players asking whether they can come to Mitchie.
Oh, get stuffed. Deadline day's passed.
I just...
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, hang on. Wait, I just reject.
No, go on.
She's ex-Annalise.
So South's taking on Redlands. It'll be interesting to see the team that Redlands puts out on the park, and how different it will play.
Well, talking to Tegan Riding the other day, I wasn't talking to Zoe, was talking to her. She's back at Redlands.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quality up front.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And just one player like that can make a world of difference.
It can.
But, of course, with Ray not there and having to appoint a coach late,
yes,
you're just not sure how disruptive
they've
been. But they've got good players.
They have got good players. I think this will knock them around for a bit.
I hope Tatsioga's still there because I really like watching her play.
Yeah,
I won't like watching her play against me, but I like the games that we saw last year and covered for FP Media. I really enjoy watching that girl play.
Well, as long as Jo Buckley's still in it, I think she's the best goalkeeper in the competition at the moment, Jo Buckley, from Redlands. And, they are good all over the park. It's just how much that cohesiveness has been disrupted by this coaching change late in the season, or early in the season.
So Redlands could be a good team to draw early on.
Could be.
I hope we've got them in the second round. But hopefully they don't get their act together against South and they wait till round 3.
It'll be interesting to see. South have got the junior NPL girls coming through as well, so maybe they're in there.
Yeah, South will be interesting because South were the South Strikers as part of that Strikers NPL collaboration. So when the whole Southeast Queensland League was formed with the sort of NPL clubs coming into with the Brisbane clubs, we had South Strikers and Souths in both competitions. So South Strikers had an NPL team and Souths were in the Premier League. So the Strikers part of it pulled out and just left Souths.
Right.
So it'll be interesting to see what players move from the South Strikers part to the South United part. So how they joined that up.
I just can't follow some of this.
It's very confusing.
It is. It'll be interesting to see. South's improved, I think, last year, and it does take almost a year for a team and the coaches to get used to this top level. And so they'll be better for it, I think. But I'm still tipping Redlands. So,
I'm tipping Redlands too.
Okay.
I think by a couple.
Well, let's put next out on lines.
Top 6?
Top 6.
Because it's a 14-team comp, so typically 14 teams have a top 6.
Well, let's go the other way. Who do you think's in danger of being relegated? If relegation, who knows what's going to happen?
Well, if there was relegation, if we wanted to go from 14 to 12,
let's do that.
Right, then I think Taringa's in trouble.
Yep, I agree with that.
I think the danger would be Western Pride.
Yes.
Southwest Queensland.
Yes.
And possibly Sunny Coast or Sunshine Coast Fire.
I
think the ones that have got really young teams may struggle in that first year.
Sunny Coast, remember, 2 years ago were 3rd or 4th in the Diamond League.
But they weren't sort of all young kids coming out.
No, so it depends how many of you got those players coming back.
But to answer your question, I think the teams that have got really young players will struggle. You imagine putting a whole heap of 15 and 16-year-olds out against the gap, and if it bruises their confidence too much,
that's it. But we saw that last year. Palm Beach stepped up, and they got thumped early on, and then they came and got a third overall.
That's the other side of it, isn't it? So, but I think they're the ones that could struggle.
Yep.
All right.
Okay.
I think the UQs and the Mitchies, I think, have probably got enough quality to hang in there.
Yeah.
And do all right. And obviously, Annerley might be the other one that might struggle a little bit early on. So if you get a little bit too far down the list early on, you could struggle to keep up.
I agree, but I think at least at Annerley they have the player base to, make sure that they're going to, it's always morale boosting knowing you've got subs. So
I think that's where. What about yourself?
I'm sort of tipping that. My bottom 3 would be Taringa, Pride, and Thunder. And then there's a big middle pack of Annerley, Souths, Mitchie, UQ. I think Power and Redlands are pushing up into the top 6. So let's go to your top
6. Well, it's difficult at this stage to pick the order, all right. But I think in the top 6 will be the Gap and Redlands. Mm-hmm. I think Palm Beach, I agree with you, will be up there. I think Power will be in there. I think Olympic will be in there, and I think Mitchie will be in there.
Well, I think we're basically the same except Mitchie. Where'd you put East? Did you put East in that top 6?
No.
Oh, really? That's a big call.
Well,
that won't win you any friends.
You can't fit them all in there. So
no, you can't. It's going to be tight. I think it's actually going to be tight for those 3 to 6 positions this year.
Yeah, I actually think that perhaps the top 3 it won't be a 2-horse race. I think Palm Beach might push right up in there. I think
so.
And
I hope so.
It won't be the big. There might be some blowouts at different times during the year, but I don't think it's going to be the big issue.
I hope not. Well, that's your South East Queensland Premier League and your Brisbane Premier League and all the other leagues of women's football from Brisbane.
Yep.
And
that's it for us this week.
I think that's it.
And if you're listening to that, you've obviously found us on YouTube.
Yeah, we're on YouTube. That's right. So new home, new silent producer. Everything's going.
He didn't play for Brighton, did he?
Don't know. Did he play? No, he played at Logan Village or something like that. There you go. Look at that.
Oh, no way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to think up Logan Village jokes all week.
It's not hard.
We've got to go, Greg. We're way over time.
We are. I hope you enjoyed this first one. Hopefully next week we won't give you rumours. We'll give you the facts.
Yes.
And so
get
goodbye
out on
from
the weekend.
me.
Get out on the weekend, watch some women's footy.
Lots of women's football to watch.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you very much.